welcome everybody. It's been a hectic week here in Israel, and I guess for everybody else around the world. I'm Pesach Sherbow, coming to you live from Mitzvot Israel. Today's date, just to put a timestamp on it for us here, is the 7th of May. I guess the 6th still in the USA. And I'm here with my co-host Terry Hayes. And of course, Scotty's here, and Dan and Chrissy from Australia, Veronica and Devorah. We thank you for being with us tonight. Terry and I I just asked Terry, what are we going to talk about tonight? He says, I don't have an idea. So I said, I don't either, but I do. Let's talk about the word mitzvah. Mitzvah, mitzvot. Mitzvah is singular, mitzvot is plural. We're all about the 7 universal laws or commandments that God gave to all mankind that we're supposed to be following. And most of us do the very best we can, whether we're Noahides or whether Noahides, which are the righteous of the nations, or Jewish or Gentile or whoever you are. And mitzvah, some people it scares them the word commandment. Here's a commandment you got to do for God. Most people don't realize there's a whole huge meaning in there, which actually means, okay, let me give you an example. You're pulling up to your local 7-Eleven convenience store in the morning. You're in a rush. You got to get to work. You need that cup of coffee dough. You need that donut, whatever. And you jump out of your car, and out from the door of the convenience store comes somebody, anybody. It could be an old person, a young person, whatever. And they're just juggling packages and things. And their packages fall over. And they bend down to pick them up, and you just take a look at them and walk on by. You're in a hurry. You got to get to work. You got a million things on your mind, so you figure, they can take care of it themselves. You walk in, get your coffee, get back in your car, and drive away. Let me tell you, you just missed the mitzvah. Now, what do I mean by that? As we go through our daily life, every single day, God wants to bless us. He wants to give us a blessing in our daily life. So he gives us the opportunity to have that blessing. How? By putting something in our way that we maybe have to go out of our way to do. We have to stop a minute, help somebody, or the guy walks up to you, and I'm not talking about people that are addicted to things, but I'm talking about a person that walks up to you and they need some money, pay rent, pay an electric bill, feed their kids, whatever. There's plenty of them out there today. And you just look at them and say, go get a job and keep going, or something like that. When these people come in front of you, they're sent to you so that you can do what God would like you to do, which is be kind and help that person. Whether it's helping them pick up packages, whether it's giving them a little bit of money, whether it's whatever it happens to be, helping them across the street. I'm exaggerating a little bit, you know what I mean. But you see it every day. You see it at work. You see it going to and from work. You see it when you're at a mall or wherever you are. Someone needs something. And you look at them and keep going. You know they need. And almost every day you see somebody like that, but you just keep going. You're too busy. Don't have time. You're in a hurry. Or you just don't feel like it. Well, every time that happens and you just walk by, you have missed a great event. Because God puts these people in front of you. We call it divine providence or hashgacha pratit, for you to do an act of kindness for somebody, to make their lives a little bit better. Now, when you do this kindness, God is blessing you. He's saying, here's a blessing for you for the day to help you through the day. We call it a mitzvah. And it's
giving us.
You want to just, there we go. Okay. And this is an important thing to remember. When you look at someone and you judge them immediately, or like, I don't want to help this person, or don't have time, or you look at somebody and you say, oh, that person looks like a bum to me or something like that. God's giving you the chance to do something very wonderful on this planet. Because why? The person in front of you was created in his image. So are you. So when you help that person, you are essentially helping God. Because you and me and every one of us are in his image. And if someone helps me, they're helping God. If I need a table carried up the stairs or something. And when you do that, God gives you a blessing. You may not see the blessing immediately. It may not be that you reach in your pocket and there's a $100 bill in there or something like that. It may be something you don't even realize. It could be your health. It could be something that was supposed to, God knew that there was something that was going to come into your life today that was going to upset you, but because you did something to help him, he arranges it so that doesn't come into your life at that particular time. He takes care of each and every one of us. He doesn't look away from any of us. No matter what people think, no matter what they say, God is always there. And so when you run your life thinking that way, you become a different person than the guy that walks by somebody that needs help. It helps you keep God in front of your eyes all the time. You know, I tell people, before you do anything, you start to get angry, upset, jealous, judgmental. You ask yourself a specific question. You say, is this what God would like me to do? Before you do the act. It's called meditation. At least I call it meditation, because we're always thinking about God. And so I'm always double checking with him. What does he want me to do? And hopefully I get it right. The last thing I want to do is someone to look at me, and because I'm a Jew, will say, look at that Jew. That's the kind of God he represents. He just walks by and doesn't help. We never think of it that way, but when people look at us, they're also judging us. And our job is to get as many people as possible thinking about the one true God, the God of Israel, the creator of all things, because that's what's going to fix the world. When we start looking at each other like that, we look at the news today, the Democrats beating up the Republicans beating up the Democrats, the USA beating up China, China beating up the United States and a couple other countries. Now there's this big thing going on in America about whose fault it is for this and whose fault it is for that. And this one said this, and the other one said that, and all these conspiracy theories coming out. People are just looking to make things worse. Make it bad. Everybody take a side and let's throw rocks at each other. This is not the world that God wants. And who's in charge of making the world the way he wants it? We are. I always remember that part in Genesis where it says, and God set Adam down into the Garden of Eden and said, guard my garden. Take care of my garden. What is the garden? We're living in it. We're walking. We eat from it. Everything that happens, we're at the cause, human beings. We're the cause of everything. We're the ones that do this. So we have to understand that we can do it in a good way or a bad way. So let's start as an individual. And God says, okay, you're up at bat. You go help that person over there. I don't care how busy you are. There's plenty of time. You got eternity. You know, it's funny that people that in other religions that believe that there's resurrection of the dead and everything, a lot of them will tell me, I don't have time to do this. I'm in a hurry. Got to go do this. Got to do that. And I said, what's your hurry? You got eternity. Why can't you help somebody? Why can't you do something for somebody? But it's the truth. Our bodies may not have eternity, but we do. And so when someone reaches out to you or doesn't even reach out, but you see they need help, it's time to help. You know, when I was selling cars, and we were talking about that earlier, as a salesman, as a rookie salesman, if I saw anybody on the side of the road with the hood up or the flat tire, I stopped and I helped them. I'd help them change a tire. If they needed a help with a tow truck or whatever, I'd help them do it. They needed gas. I would do it. I stopped dead in my tracks and would do it. Now, I did it for the wrong reason, because when I finished with them, I'd always give them my business card. And you know what? Many times I saw them walk into the showroom and ask for me when I was selling cars, when I first started selling cars. But I continued doing that because something happened inside of me, and this is before my whole life trusted God, but I wasn't a religious person part of my life, as we put in parentheses. I wouldn't wear the black hat and the beard and all that. I found that when I helped somebody, it helped me. I was late for work. It was snowing like crazy. I was whatever. And I would stop and help somebody. And I did it again for my own reasons, because, okay, this is a potential customer for me. So I would help them out. But when I would get back in my car and these people were on their way, I felt it made me feel kind of good inside that I helped somebody with a problem in their life. Albeit it was for selfish motives, but it started making me feel good. So when I started doing that, until today I do it. I will stop and I will help people. At my age, it's a little hard for me to get the lugs off the car because they put them on with the impact wrench now. I can't even get my own off. But thank God we have a thing called Friends here in Israel, Yedidim in Hebrew. And if you get stuck on a car anywhere, I don't even in the middle of the city or wherever you are, and you have a problem, you call them. They send a volunteer out, change your tire, bring you gas, get you started, whatever it is. Don't take a penny. And they always show up with a smile and they help you out and they go on their way. And it doesn't take them long to get there either. It's pretty cool. And that's good because I had a flat tire the other day right in front of City Hall. I couldn't change the lug wrench. And, you know, everything was closed. It was shut down. I had to go up to the post office to check my mail. So there was nobody there to help me in the middle of the city in front of City Hall. So I called them in 10, 11 minutes. They were there, changed the tire, and I went on my way. And it's good when you do good for people. Not only does it make you feel good, it makes God feel good. Because we're doing what he wants us to do. We're not cutting each other down. We're not being bigoted against one another. We're not hating one another. And every time we do something like that, he gives us a blessing back. And you may not see it immediately, but believe me, you're going to see it. You're really going to see it. So when you hear the word mitzvah, don't think of, here's something I got to do for God, like don't murder, don't steal, don't worship idols. It means all the incorporated things within it. Now, which basically the number one thing that God wants from us is being kind to one another. Even if you're worshiping something or someone other than him, he allows you to do it because you have free choice, but he still wants you to be kind to people. If you're not kind to people, he doesn't like it very much. All you got to do is read the book of Jonah, tell you all about it. Read about the world before the flood. It'll tell you all about it. People were, he got angry at people, if you can say anger, it has to do with God. Those people that they were not. All right, let's talk about Nineveh for a minute. He didn't tell Jonah to tell Nineveh, I'm going to destroy you if you don't worship me. He never said that. He said, you better start treating each other right or I'm going to destroy this city. I'm tired of you guys, what you're doing to each other. And the king sent out a proclamation. Everything changed. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody had to get down on their knees in front of God and worship him. He would not do that. It's your own free choice. He wants you to, but it's your own free choice. He gave it to you. The thing that he wants you is to be kind to one another, be gentle to one another. Being kind to one another comes under the Hebrew word of tzedakah. Now, it's kind of mistranslated into the word, tzedakah is mistranslated into the word charity. In English, charity means given to the poor and all that kind of stuff. It's really not what it's all about. It's about being kind to one another. And I'll tell you why we do it, we make sure at least 10% of whatever we receive, whether it's gifts or it's income or whatever, however we get it, goes out to people in need or to someone that needs, like some of the rabbis that teach people here in Israel, they don't tell you got to pay for a course, but every time they teach, if you're there with them for an hour, you leave them a little bit of money because they deserve it. Nobody's paying them to do what they're doing. There isn't some big teachers organization and union to make sure that everybody gets a certain minimum wage. It's the same way all over the world. If someone teaches you, you give them some recompense. So somebody said something in the chat. I didn't see that. Oh, there you go. Devorah said, hello, I guess she's gone already. Even when it comes down to somebody down the street that you know is having a tough time paying their bills, you put a little something in an envelope and just drop it off at their house. You don't have to tell them where it came from. Who they got it from doesn't make any difference. The point is they get it when they need it. Somebody needs some groceries. You just leave a bag of groceries on their front porch. All these things are considered tzedakah. Kindness to one another is tzedakah. So it's important that we understand that God is looking for how we treat each other. Not how we treat him, how we treat each other. And it's a big, big thing that he wants from all of us. As you go through your day, look for the chances to help someone. Even if you see somebody they look like they're having a really bad day, put a smile on their face. That's the same thing. It's tzedakah. It's being kind to people. It's not necessarily you have to, spend money on them, but just be nice, smile back, help them get over whatever it is they're over. Help them through it. Now, I don't mean help them through it like solve a problem. Just help them feel better. Sometimes we can solve a problem, sometimes we can't, but that's, within whatever is in our abilities. But the big thing is just treating people in a proper manner. Don't ever let anybody walk by you and think to themselves, that person is this, or that guy never smiles, or you don't want to give them the chance to think poorly of you. So why don't want to do that? If they think poorly of you, they're thinking poorly of your God. So you want to do things that will help things along. So tzedakah, we can talk for hours and hours on it. Enough said on that, but we should, each and every one of us, make it a little mission when we get up in the morning to help people during the day. I don't care how busy you are. I don't care how many things you got to do. Take a minute to slow down and help somebody in their life. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what result that help you give them, how it's going to help them. They might be in such down in the dumps and so uptight maybe for being in quarantine with the family or whatever. They need that lift up spirit. So it's always good to do that. And I hope you guys, your countries are kind of getting slowed down and people are starting to be able to take a breath again with all this coronavirus stuff going around. It looks like it's kind of leveling off, so it's not so bad. So, and I don't want to get a big talk about that, but we're hoping the planes will start flying pretty soon. So people can start coming back to Israel. You know, last April, there was almost 400,000 tourists came through the airport in Israel. This April, 600 people came through. What a difference. I guess it's happening everywhere in the world. I just happen to notice the Israeli figures. And what's happening around the world is we're getting into this social distancing, it's called. So when you go out of the house, all you're worried about is how far away can somebody stay from you when you go out of the house. It's tough. It's tough to constantly be thinking about that. And then you have the people that go out and they maybe not taking proper safety procedures as far as face masks and gloves and things like that. And we right away feel we're critical of the person right away. And of course, you get critical. Some of us are scared of what's going on because of the virus, but we shouldn't be critical of people. We have to get it out of our thinking. God wants us to enjoy life and to enjoy serving him, period. Now, of course, things are going to happen in life where you're going to be sad. Unfortunately, a very elderly lady that Shira was very close to and took care of actually for about 8 months just passed away yesterday or day before yesterday. Of course, and that it upset her and made her sad, and that's okay. You do your sadness, you get it over with, and you move on. It's okay not to be sad for a year for somebody. That's how we have our mourning customs, and we'll talk about that a different time. And right now, if they just started allowing 20 people to go to funerals again here. So people feel unfulfilled in mourning, and people pass away and nobody's by their bed because you can't be close to them. Thank the Lord that the numbers have dropped way down and all that, all around the world. But we're going to have sadness. But it's our job to take the moment and feel sad and then go back to what God wants us to do is be joyful all the time. Now, I don't mean you have to go hopping and skipping down the street, singing songs and throwing rose petals in the air. But inside, there should be a delight in every breath, a delight in everything that's going on around you. We lose that when we get critical of people. At work, at home, on the streets, in a store. We look at people and in our heads, we're criticizing them. It takes away from our joy. And we do it in a way that makes us feel better, though. So, you know, I talk a lot about this because I think it's very important not to be so critical about people and to help people learn how to enjoy their lives. Look, you know what? Even the sporting events we go to, we take our kids to soccer or to football or wherever we go. Even there, we can't enjoy a game. Even there, it's, what do you mean, ref? What do you mean? Huh? We're always complaining about everything, especially if the kids aren't winning. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you got complaints. I don't mean you individually, but that's how we work as human beings, because that's how we've been taught to work. You can change that. You can change yourself. And when you change yourself, you change the people around you, and they will see the difference in you. And I know we have people right here in the room tonight that have experienced that change in their lives and how it's made them feel better and made them feel like a better person, me included. And Shira and I were talking about that at dinner tonight, actually. There's still people out there, I guess it's always going to be that way, when they go from one belief system to another belief system, they look back at the old belief system and they're telling people how goofy it is, and how terrible it is, and why was I lied to, and all this kind of stuff. And we used to do that ourselves when we were teaching. Sometimes we were sarcastic. Sometimes we would put down somebody else, actually put down a whatever belief system. And one time, a very close friend of my wife said to her, "So what are you guys always so negative about?" And I didn't realize we were being negative. I thought we were being informative. I thought we were just teaching. And she says, "You're always so negative about everything you say." And from that day on, we changed our whole, and we knew for a very fact that God sent that person to us to tell us that because he wanted us to change. We were doing it the wrong way. And we listened. And we changed. It's been years now, but we changed. When someone comes to you and says something like that, or says something to you, many times God sent them to you to say those words to you so you could think about it, because you weren't listening to him. So he sends somebody to say it right out loud in front of your face, and it may hurt your feelings. What do you mean I'm doing this? What do you mean I'm doing that? But it could very well be that your creator, who created you in his image, has something to say to you that you're not hearing from anybody else. So put somebody in front of you that will say something to you. And generally, they won't say it in a nasty way. Sometimes it does happen that way, because it's supposed to make you stop and think, wait a minute, why did that person say that to me? How could they think that about me? I must be projecting something that causes that person to say that. Everything that somebody says to you, you should look at and investigate, just to make sure God didn't tell that person, go tell Pesach this particular thing. So I listen to what everybody has to say today. By the way, I don't know if you can see behind me that lit, where is it? Wait a minute, over there, right here behind me, that lit up little space down there. Can you see that where's my name cover it? That's the walls of a canyon. And it looks that way every day when the sun is starting to go down behind the mountains on one side of us, and a lot of the places in shade, and that place just lights up. And just past it, and it's a shame that I can't get it bigger, you can see the Sea of Galilee right past it, sitting right on top of it. It looks like is the Sea of Galilee. This is one of the views from our home. All the white you see in the back are clouds, because we're about cloud level. And they're sitting right on top of the Golan Heights. By the way, the Golan Heights, for those of you that don't know, is the end of the Asian plateau before Africa starts. It's Africa, and Israel's part of Asia, by the way. We're the very last country on the plateau. Actually, the plateau stops, the land drops down, and then there's Israel, and then there's Africa. A very interesting configuration, but that's why the Dead Sea, the Salt Sea, it drops down so low that it is absolutely the lowest point on Earth and the hottest place on Earth. It's hotter than Death Valley. So it's just a little known facts. I know I wandered from one thing to another. Terry, you got anything you want to add? Scotty, Tony, good to see you. Anything you want to bring into the discussion or even change subject is okay with me.
I'd just like to take a back step when you was talking about charity and tzedakah. The way it was explained to me from one of my previous teachers is that charity is something, when we think about it, it's something that we do or give to someone else from ourself. Tzedakah is where we take what God has given us and we put it in the right place.
That's a good definition.
And it's kind of like, it's right here Rabbi Hirsch writes when he's talking about in Genesis 18 about tzedakah and mitzvah, he puts tzedakah denotes a right that is not inherently one's own, but is given to one by God.
A right that is not inherently our own,
but one that is given to us by God.
By God.
And so that kind of ties in with what how it was explained to me.
Yeah.
And so that's why when we're looking at tzedakah, like especially tzedakah in the form of giving and helping out, we're taking what is God's and putting it in the right place. It's not ours; it's God's.
Well, that's a very good point, because everything we have, even sitting in front of us, that we're looking at right now, none of it is ours. We think it is because we brought it home from the store. But everything we have is given to us by God. That is true 100%. And the paychecks that we get, I used to think I earned mine. Then I realized that was what God was providing for me and my family. He provided the money. It came through the employer. It came through me being attached to that employer and working. But he gave it to me. It's his. He says, okay, here, do what you want with it. And then I, again, am in this position. I have to make a decision. And then I figure, am I going to make the decision about me? Or are we going to make the decision the way God wants me to make it? Now, we learn from Abraham after he went to after he went to the war with the 5 kings, and he came back in front of Melchizedek. You say that in English, Melchizedek, right? What happened at that little meeting there when Melchizedek came out of the town of Salem to meet Abraham? He brought him out bread and wine and offered him bread and wine. And Abraham took 10% of everything he had and laid it at his feet. Nobody told Abraham to do this. He just did it. Because he knew it belonged to God, and Melchizedek was the ruler at the time of where he was, and he knew he should have passed it on to him because he was also the high priest. Ever since then, we've called it a tithe, which means 10%, essentially. It isn't, God didn't say take 10% of everything you have and do this and that with it until the temple was built. Then that tithe that 10% we were spreading around had a very specific places to go. And we got them, they're when we read the Tanakh about the tithes, until there was a temple period, there really wasn't too much places to do it, except when we built the tabernacle. And we went into Israel, and it was at Shiloh for quite a number of years. And people brought their tithes there, the tithes to the poor, and the tithes for the second year tithe and the fourth year tithe, I think it is. I just don't remember them all. Some years it was 10%, some years it was 20%. And these were commended by God, and that's when it started. But it started actually when Abraham gave, because Abraham knew already he was supposed to do it from God. So when you get something, yes, it's yours, you earned it, but is it all yours? And didn't God give it to you to do something? Good haircut. Sorry, little joke. Yeah, it was Facebook page the other day. Richard Helton. And it all has to be done with pleasure. It's not like, I got to do this again. I got to do that again. It all has to do with being in joy. And Scotty?
I don't want to break your train of thought.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was sitting here debating whether I should tell this little story. I always have these things that happen to me. Yesterday morning, I stop at the same Sonic every morning. So everybody there knows me. It's the same one. And I get the same thing every morning. Well, from time to time, I pay for the person's behind me's ticket. And so there was this little minivan come in, and the windows were a little bit tinted. It was behind me. And I got this impression, well, I'm going to pay for their drink, because I'm thinking everybody, all they're getting is their quick fix on Diet Coke, you know? So I'm thinking it's going to be $1.09. I paid for mine, and then I said, you know what? I want to pay for the person's behind me. And the lady said, are you sure? I said, yes. Well, let me tell you something. It wasn't $1.09. And so I put a smile on my face. I said, I said I was going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you their tip as well. So I gave it to her. Well, this morning when I went in, she said, you never cease to amaze me. I'm going to tell you what happened. The lady behind you had 4 kids in the car and had bought them all breakfast. And when she got to the window, she realized she left her pocketbook at home. She's going to have to go home and get it and come back. She said, can you keep the food warm? And then the waitress said, well, you're not going to believe this, but the person in front of you paid for your food. So it not only did them, it also showed the waitress, you know.
There you go.
You know, you can do things like this. It just happens. Now, was I happy that it turned out to be more than $1.09? I had to put a smile on my face and say, okay. But it all worked out. It all worked out well.
Well, you know what? Yes. See, this is what I was talking about earlier, that God puts us in a position to help people. Sometimes we don't even know we're in a position to help people, but we end up helping them anyway. And in this particular case, this was for you and for that person. For you, it was you had a chance to bless that person so God would bless you. And that person got blessed. To them, it was a personal experience from God. Because, I mean, how would you know? You didn't even know who was in a van. But all of a sudden, in your head, it said, pay for their stuff behind you. Well, that came from God. But stuff like that, everybody gets thoughts like that every once in a while. Not everybody acts on them. Nah, I'm not going to do that. Nah. And in this case, you had to force a smile a little bit.
I wonder if the van hadn't had tinted windows, would I have argued with myself from the time I saw the van to the time I got up to pay?
Probably, if you saw the kids in there and everything. But, you know, that's what she told the lady in the window, that she forgot her wallet. It could have been anything. She just didn't have the money, and she didn't realize it until she was already ordered the stuff. She started hunting for it. Yeah, it's funny. Yesterday, Cher and I, on Wednesdays, we go grocery shopping. And on the way there, we stopped to help some people with different things. Sometimes I go to somebody's house, they need a bill translator, they need phone calls made to you know, government institutions or something. They don't speak Hebrew too well. They're English speakers, so I help them out. Anyway, we go to the store, we get our shopping cart, we're walking in, and all of a sudden I realized I didn't have my wallet. So, and it was a busy day, and the place was packed, and it took us a little while to find a parking space even. And because people are starting to get out more, they've released most of the restrictions here. So I was thinking to myself, I guess we're going to have to go home, get my wallet, come back, look for parking again. So I said to Cher, I said, you don't mind going in and starting shopping, and I'm going to go home and get my wallet. And she said, okay. But the point is, I had to leave and go home and get to, and I couldn't tell, and everybody's supermarket knows me, even the manager, but I'm sure I couldn't have carried those groceries home without paying for it. They don't let you do that. But from the time I left the grocery store, came back, and when I came back, there was a parking spot sitting right there for me, guy coming out of a car. Everything just went so smooth that I felt blessed by God that even though I forgot my wallet. Everything went smooth, and I was back in like 10, 12 minutes, and we continued shopping. But when things go smoothly, I mean really smoothly like that, I always thank God for it because I know He did it. Because I could have come back and it could have been 20 minutes before I found a parking spot. The parking spaces are pretty big, the parking lots, but they're not big enough. And those stores there are, I guess in America we've had places like that too. So here, I felt God bless me, making that a little easier for me. For you, Scotty, God want to give you a huge blessing. And it made you feel good. And then you come and tell us, and it makes us feel good to see how God works. You have your hand up, Tony?
Say we were on the opposite end of that today. My wife she's get to open her shop on Friday. And she went to start cleaning up and making sure everything's squared away. And when she opened her door, envelope fell down, and she grabbed her mail and the envelope, threw it on the counter, and did her thing. She said it didn't feel like much anything, so she wasn't. And just before she left, she went through her mail and found that, opened it up. There was a note in there that said, "Thanks for all you do in town." And there's a $100 bill.
Wow. That's great. And the person that did it, and was directed to give it to your wife, God did this. And the person had a choice to do it or not do it. That thought came into their mind, they could do it or not do it. See how wonderful it is? And people don't think about what happens on the other side of the story. Go ahead, Richard.
I have a friend who's a working musician. And through her, I know all the musicians are struggling. So she did a small concert on Facebook, and I tipped her 200.
Well, that's good.
She was very grateful.
That's very good. That's good. That you find that when you have a chance to help somebody, and you know the highest level of helping somebody actually that's listed in by Rambam, and of course this part of our Jewish God's philosophy that He's taught us is totally anonymously. It's the number one highest level of help. The person that gets help doesn't know where it comes from, just like it happened to your wife, Tony. But it's even a higher level if you don't know who you're helping also. And there's a reasoning behind it. If you live in a town that you see the people you help walking on the street, it gives us a little bit of a prideful feeling. Oh, I helped this family and I helped that family. But if they see you and know that you helped, it's actually an embarrassment factor for them. Sometimes they'll walk to the other side of the street. They won't say hi. They're embarrassed that you had to help them. And that happens to people. So the highest, greatest way to give is you give anonymously to someone you don't know. They give an example in the Baal Shem Tov gives an example of the guy that walks up behind somebody, doesn't know who it is. He just sees the person has kind of a raggedy coat on or something, and pins to his coat an envelope with money in it and walks away. Never sees the person's face, and the person never sees his face. Highest level of giving. Now, a lot of people don't like to give anymore for different reasons. One of them is they believe that the money, because of administrative fees and all kinds of other stuff, water, gas, electric, not enough money gets used for the purposes they want it used for. And that's true with these large, big organizations. But there are plenty of people out there that there is no administrative fees, there is no building to take care of, there is no whatever, overhead, and they don't take salaries. And the money just goes to help people. And I'm just saying, you should look at wherever you're sending your money and see if you can't do it a little bit better. Just so it gets to more of what you send gets used actually for what you want it to be used for. That's one of the things. You know who taught me that? I mean, I've learned it in all writings now, but when I was younger, there used to be a Labor Day telethon on TV by Jerry Lewis, where he was raising money for people with MS. And he used to talk about that. He used to talk about the percentage of money that got where it's supposed to go. I used to love him anyway because it was goofy movies. It was pretty funny. But it was pretty good. Pretty good. Now, let me ask you this. Does anybody have any questions or comments they want to make? Anybody? Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
In my area, California has a lot of homeless. A portion of them are just down on their luck. Some of them have drug addiction. Some are alcoholic. But I see one standing outside the restaurant saying he's hungry, money for food. I'll invite him in, buy him food, let him sit down and enjoy it.
That's good. That's good that you give them help like that. It's a shame that we have people that are out of work, and that we have people that are homeless, and we have people that the addiction problems. Okay, I don't want to get into that right now because there's a whole different set of helping for them. But there are just families out there that don't have a pillow at night except in the backseat of their car or out on the street somewhere. And unfortunately, some of the governments allow it to happen too in different states and different countries. Don't want to get into all that right now, but yeah, if you can help one of these people out, that's what you got to do. You just, God wants you to be kind. To everybody. This is the whole basis of creation, folks. The whole basis of creation was this is created to be a beautiful experience as it possibly could be while we go through this corridor, this passage of time in this life stuff to go on down the road, to go on to the next level of life, which is eternal life. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, Pasek, about kindness. I spent a number of years working at a drug and alcohol rehab center when I was young, and fully engaged in a lot of kindness. Did everything I could to try to reach out and help those in need. And I got to the point where I found that just take everything you got and come back for more. And I don't want to sound, cold or callous because I'm a giver. But there has to be a point. And, when I was still lost in Christianity, all I can say is somebody asked me one time, well, are you blessed? And my attitude was, well, if my giving, exceeded my living expenses, the way I looked at it is that was a good standard for being blessed. But it got to the point where you had so many people, like when I was at this rehab center, got to the point where I could no longer go to the downtown core of the city that I grew up in because I would be mauled, or everybody looking for help and their hand out. People would be banging on my doors. I'd empty my freezer out, and they knew they could get a meal to eat. And I just said, there's got to be something wrong I'm doing here. And, I've had rabbis talk about a cap on giving, like it shouldn't be more than 20%. Can you elaborate on that? I mean, we understand the tithe and, giving to Hashem, and especially for areas where it's going to be used, is a good thing. But even like you've talked about briefly, those areas where people don't even know it came from you, you're just blessing somebody. That's just such a God-honoring thing. But can you talk about the limits and the balance of the health in that?
Yes, there's quite a bit of writings on that. And that's a very good question, because some people think that they have to give until it hurts. They have to give more, even if they have to go without. That is not what God wants. There's something that really surprised me to learn about God's halakha, the way he wants us to live. And this example sounds pretty cruel, but this is the example that really stuck in my head. If you and another person are wandering in the desert and you have a canteen of water, there's no obligation to share the water with the other person. Now, this sounds cruel. I mean, who would do that? Who could consciously do that? But God says it's okay to give, but you do not damage yourself. You do not damage your family. First and foremost, you and your family. So, and I've thought about this example for years, but God would prefer that you, because you had the foresight and the planning to bring that water and the other person ran out, and it's nobody's fault you're wandering around lost, but you don't have to give up your life for that other person. You do not have to do it in a case like that. There is a cap on what you do for people, but first, your bills are paid. First, you take care of what you need to take care of for your family. Now, that is what you're supposed to do. But even God says the guy that you hand money to, the beggar, he can't take all of that money. He has to take a minimum of 10%, and this is what the sages have come up with, and they say it's better to do 20, and pass it on to somebody else. That person is not allowed to take $1 and put it in his pocket and go buy $1, whatever, something for $1. He's supposed to put money aside to help someone else, no matter how poor he is. Now, the way that we get in the habit of doing this as a human being, God wants us to get in the habit of putting our hands in our pockets. So what we do, what we're instructed to do, is have what we call a charity box. Just a little charity box. For us, we have two of them. One in the dining room area and one in the kitchen area. The kitchen area is because of the way it's situated and because of the high stands. I usually stand there and pray in the mornings, do my morning prayers. And before you pray, as you start to pray, you put 3 coins in. 3 coins, doesn't make any difference how much. It's 3 coins. Just reach in your pocket and put it in there and then pray. Why does God want you to do this? 2 reasons. He wants you to get in the habit of reaching in your pocket to help other people. And he wants you to get in the habit of thinking to do something for someone else before you start to do for yourself. So you put the 3 coins in. 10 cents, 30 cents, whatever it is. But over a little bit of time, it builds up what's in that box. And then you take that and you give it to someone that needs it, or split it up with some people that need it. But that doesn't even count for what other things you're supposed to do. But what it does is get you in the habit of thinking there are needy people. God wants me to take care of other people. Let me do this, and then I'm going to pray. And you know what? When you go to shul in the morning, when we go to shul to pray, people that need money know they can come there by the door. As you go in, everybody's going to give them a little bit. Or they'll come, as we're praying, they'll come walk through the room, just like this, with their hand out. And everybody just reaches over and gives them a coin or gives them something and puts it in it. And what happened? Is that person taking care of themselves? No, he's taking care of me. God sent him there so I could get a blessing from God by giving this money. I get a blessing from God for giving this guy the money. He's not an annoyance. He's not a bother. He's a blessing because it's giving me a chance to fulfill what God wants done. And one of the places I used to pray every day, a guy came through, an old Russian guy, a rabbi, and he picked up money every day. And we all knew exactly what he was doing with the money. And he went from one synagogue to another, to another, to another, all during prayer time up here in Spot, in the old city. He was helping feed 20 families. But he didn't brag about it and tell everybody that. He just came in and, in a minute, Richard, let me just finish my thought. And we give him money. And you know what? If he didn't show up for a day or two, and I used to give him, aside from the coins I put in the box when I go into the Bet Knesset before I pray, I made sure he had 5 shekel. What's 5 shekel? It's $1.50. But I made sure he had the 5 shekel every day. And if I didn't see him for 3 or 4 days, I gave him 3 or 4 days worth. And if a while back, last year, I was a little sick and I had to go in the hospital and I had to have an operation. When I saw him after that, I took all those 5 shekels that I would have given him anyway, and I gave it to him. Because it was important to me, because he was doing good work and he was a blessing to me each morning. That I could help other people in this manner. I didn't have to go hunt for people to help. He was there. But he wasn't the only one that would come in every morning. Sometimes 3 or 4 guys would come in. And we help the people. Everybody. Nobody does not let them walk by without putting something in that guy's hand. And it doesn't matter. It's not the amount. It's the point that you do it. And you get in the habit of doing it. So it's a good thing to do. And because you are blessing someone else and he's blessing you by giving you the opportunity, he's giving you the opportunity to be blessed by God. And that's the way we look at it. We do a mitzvah and we get a blessing. So helping somebody will always help you in one way or another. So to finish off on what Dan was saying, you never ever do it at the expense of your own family. You have a family. God has given you children. He's given you a wife. They're there for you to take care of. Now, maybe you're not upper middle class, you're middle class. Or you border on being actually poor. That's okay as long as you have your needs, not your wants. Don't get those confused. I talk about that. You have a roof over your head, you have electricity or water, you have some place where you can cook some food, you have some food in the refrigerator. He gives us our needs. If all you want to think about is collecting toys, he'll let you do that too. But what good are they? You can't take them anywhere with you in the end. All you can do is brag about them while you got them and while you're here on earth. Once you go in the grave, what happens to them? You did it for somebody else. You didn't do it for you. And we all know the stories about the kids that inherit the money and just squander it away because they didn't have to work for it. So you really help your kid? I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for my kids. They don't have to work as hard. You really think you're helping them? You're better off living life and spending time with them. The greatest gift you can give them. So we're even when it comes down to the being kind, and Tony knows what I'm talking about. Do you know it's halakha? In other words, we are commanded. We take care of our animals before we take care of ourselves. We get up in the morning. We have to go feed our animals. We got to make sure they're okay. We have to take care of their needs. Then we can go eat. Then we can sit down and have a nice big breakfast. Oh man, the animals are taken care of. Now I can take care of myself, even on the Sabbath. Well, this has to do with kindness. It's not because they're your animals and, okay, if they sit for another hour, it doesn't make any difference. They're something God created. They're his creatures. And we're supposed to treat them all with kindness. And people see in the 7 universal laws that we all follow, the one, don't eat a limb from a living animal. Well, come on, who's going to do that anyway? Maybe back in the pagan times they did it. But this all comes under the category of just being nice. Nice to God's creatures, to everything he created. And by the way, I do have a little surprise for you. I have some people I teach in Lithuania, in Vilnius, and as part of their learning how to think in this manner, and maybe you guys might want to do it too. If you want the information, I'll send it to you. You take 7 categories, or we call the 7 mitzvot, or the 7 laws, and you list them on one side of the paper. You take the 613 on the other side and look at each one of the 613 and see if it fits into one of the 7. And I have the 7 from Aisha's website. You go there and look at it if you want. They divide them into categories, the 613, so it's easier to work with. And they sent me the list. They surprised themselves. I said, wait a minute, how did 7 become 140? And we're not finished yet. But that's the truth of the matter. That's what you'll find. And you ought to do the exercise yourself if you feel like it. If you do, let me know what you find, because I'm getting this all compiled together. And I've been working on this for a couple of years, and I want to see what you guys think and put it together, and then just put it up on the website so people can actually look at it and see it graphically, how all human beings, every single one of us, Jew, righteous of the nations, or Gentile, are obligated to the 7. And that's what God wants us for. Now, I'm going to say one more thing and I'll let you talk, Richard. I don't know if you noticed, but I started something the other day, and I'm trying to work real hard on doing it every time I talk about it. I mentioned the Jew, the righteous of the nations, and the Gentile. And there's a difference in Jew, righteous, Gentile, and righteous of the nations and Gentile. The biggest difference is between the righteous of the nations and the Gentile. Gentiles, or goy, as we call them in a manner in Yiddish, are people that don't believe in the God of Israel. They're people that they just don't believe in it properly. They're atheists, or they worship and pray to someone else, or whatever. The righteous of the nations are a separate category for a very big reason. They've crossed over from the Gentile world into Israel. Now, I don't mean Israeli citizen. I'm not talking about the state of Israel. I'm talking about the family of Israel that God created as his nation, which includes those who are natural born and those who come in through their own work and their own decisions, because he gave us free choice. It's like there are levels that are lived in the world. I don't mean poverty or upper middle class or rich or something like that. I'm talking about spiritual levels. There are many people that do the 7 because it's like the good thing to do. You know, I know what I'm supposed to do, but this isn't our DNA. God made us that way. But the biggest thing is he wants us to turn and face him. Whereas he selected you and had you born because he wants you to be a partner in what he's doing. A lot of people never reach that level. They can never take that step up spiritually. It's unfortunate. We know in the end, everybody's going to do it, but people are going to fight it tooth and nail. But as we step up from the earth and step up to the level of Israel, and there's one more step, Jerusalem, and there's one more step above that. That's back where we all started, the Garden of Eden. You as a person step up. The minute you step up from being a Gentile to being connected to Israel in the proper manner, and I'm not talking about evangelical Zionist Christians or anything like that. I'm talking about people that actually connect with the God of Israel. What do you think what name are we all going to have when we get to the next level of life? We're all going to be Israelites. We're all going to be part of the God of Israel's, what he wants done. There won't be no USA and Canada and Russia and China and all that. We're all going to be in the same land with the same name. It doesn't make any difference whether you're Jewish or you're a righteous Gentile. A righteous to the nations. It doesn't make any difference. You know, someone that does the 7, and they do it without the proper belief in God, they're called wise Gentiles. Goy Hacham. He's smart enough to at least do that, even though he didn't get to the level where he's supposed to be. A huge difference between that person and you guys. It's a huge difference. You open yourselves up, you listen to what God has to say, and you took the step. Nobody forced you, nobody tried to convince you, nobody tried to evangelize you. You made the decision all on your own. And it is a very praiseworthy decision. You've moved a step closer, that's the only way I can put it, spiritually, to Hashem, to God, the creator of us all. You move that one step closer, and it's really great. And God gives you all the credit for it. You know, he says, and I don't remember exactly where it is, maybe Terry will remember, that when you come and you start doing those things that he wants done with the proper intention and the proper attitude, you're as precious to him as a high priest in Israel. You've raised yourself up with his help, because you went to him and he's raised you up to be, there's no inequality, is what I'm trying to say. He looks at us all the same. Okay, Thomas. I just saw that. He just, Rambam. Okay, there we go. It's in Rambam. It's also in either one of the prophecies. I'm thinking it's in Isaiah, but I'm not sure. It goes to the prophecies. That it's actually talked about. We read it a couple of weeks ago. I read it with somebody. Anyway, Richard, you wanted to say something. Sorry it took so long.
I'm always talking about charity and helping people. we might want to mention the chicken lady of Jerusalem. Want to talk about her?
Okay, I didn't quite get it. So there's some interference there.
The chicken lady of Jerusalem. Sorry, I have a little bit of fun.
Okay. Terry, can you help me here? Did you?
The chicken lady of Jerusalem.
I think he's saying the chicken lady of Jerusalem.
Yeah,
I don't know who that is.
she's a hero. I'll post the link.
Okay. All right.
Tony also had his hand up as well.
Okay, Tony.
I changed the subject entirely.
Be my guest.
My wife asked this question earlier, and I wasn't sure how to answer it. I guess they're trying to push through some legislation so companies can deny women access to birth control because of religious belief. That's the look I had.
Okay, now I want to understand the question. In other words, a company can deny a woman access.
Yeah,
I don't
guess
understand the question.
part of their medical insurance, they currently have access. The insurance will pay for their birth control.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can get this legislation passed, then the company can say, "Well, I don't believe that's against my belief system, and I don't want to have to pay for that," and they can deny them access to that.
Okay, the company you work for, or the insurance company, I still haven't quite got the.
Yeah, okay, I guess. How would you? If the company chooses to opt out of birth control, they can have the insurance company not provide that.
Gotcha. Coverage. Okay, I got you.
And so what would be the standing on birth control and all that stuff where you're preventing life or ending life?
Yeah, you're asking a very, very tough question.
I figured.
But it's no different than the question. I'm going to say this as delicately as I can. You're a baker, and somebody comes into your store, and they're getting married, and they're a same-sex couple, and they want the wedding cake to reflect their beliefs. Does the baker there have the right to say, no, I don't believe those kind of things, so I'm not going to bake the cake? Or is he forced by law to do something he doesn't believe in? So this is a very, very touchy situation.
Is it not covered under the First Amendment?
Birth control?
No, the religious declining of say baking that cake, because I know that there have been some lawsuits and stuff, and the bakers have won because it does violate the First Amendment for the government to say that you have to violate your religious beliefs.
Yeah, I heard there was a decision there. I didn't hear for what reason they made the decision. There was a company here in Israel that some organization wanted them. They were taking bids on getting some things printed, and this company did not put a bid in. and they took them to court because they knew they were a good printer and they usually did things less expensive, and the company just didn't bid on the work. And they took them to court saying, well, your company should have bid on the work because that's what you do. And we know that you're good quality, and we know that your prices are better than, that they're very competitive, and we wanted to print with you anyway, but we had to put a bid out. And they sued them for not making a bid. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court here in Israel. And it was simple. It was a little simpler thing than maybe the First Amendment, but nobody can be forced to do something they don't want to do. It's that simple. We don't live, and that's what this whole thing about the coronavirus is all about, that too. People, I don't have to wear a mask. I don't want to wear gloves. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And people are looking at it from their point of view. They don't want to do it. They don't want to be forced to do it without once thinking that it's not about them. You're protecting the people around you just in case you get sick or something. It's go ahead, Chris. Mike.
Look, sorry, I have been listening. I just sometimes have to do things. Look, just very quickly, in answer to the first question, I just thought I'd mention that in the Divine Code, 3rd edition, page 389, section 5, it says, this is pertaining to Gentiles, Noahites. It is permitted for a woman to do an act that prevents pregnancy, and it gives examples. So Noahide woman can take birth control measures. I just thought out of interest I'd mention that, that's all.
Yes, that's a good point.
In relation to Tony's question, yeah.
Yeah, that's
a personal choice for the Noahide woman, whether she uses birth control or not. In other words, it is permitted.
Right, absolutely, it's permitted. The question here is who pays for the permission?
Well, so I've got a question. Tony, is this a corporation that is wanting to say they don't believe in paying for a birth control? Is it a corporation?
I believe it's a blanket legislation that if, a corporation, a mom and pop, whatever, if the owner of that company decides, I don't believe in this, I don't want to provide this, so therefore I can do that.
So I'll just be personal. My personal thoughts. When it comes to a corporation, that's going to be difficult because it's a corporation. It's not a mom and pop shop. It's not, a local drugstore, like Pesach said, that's going to be a difficult situation because we're not all on that same level yet, and it gets touchy when you force your beliefs on someone else. Actually, each party is wanting to force each other's belief on the other, on a corporate.
What I said to my wife is, you're saying I don't want someone forcing their beliefs on me, but aren't you forcing your beliefs on them by demanding what they do?
And with a corporation, though, they have does a corporation have a belief? I would have to ask a question. Does a corporation have a belief?
Sure.
Do they have a belief when they're established? And that's, you have to go to that. That's kind of treating a corporation as a personality when a corporation.
They could. And, because when you write a business plan, corporations are obligated to write a business plan. And in that business plan, it has, for lack of a better word, a code of ethics, what they believe in, what they stand for. So that's something that...
So that would have to be actually in place within their code of ethics before the situation.
But those are things that they can always go back and change legally at will.
Right. Yeah, this is a really
Let me
interesting topic,
just,
and it can be. I can see
it
how-
is, but I'm going to tell you something. In a big corporation, I don't believe it has anything to do with belief system. When you work for a big corporation, it has to do with this: money, money, money.
Money's the god.
And because why don't you have dental? Why don't you have eyeglasses? Why is dental only partially covered? Why are certain things partially covered? Why do you have such big deductibles? It has to do with money. Now, whether
I won't think
one,
you work more than 20 minutes hours a week.
it's just they don't. It has to do with a big corporation. If they're going to include it in everybody's policy, we're then forcing all the people to participate in paying for this particular thing and covering the expenses. Most big corporations or medium size, they actually sometimes go to the employees and say, what coverage do you want and don't want? Because you're helping pay for it. It's coming out of your salary too. And if you're working for a mom and pop group that has a health coverage, they make a decision also, but they are more likely to do it on their belief system. I don't want this in here because we don't believe in that birth control. But if a person that works for somebody that doesn't pay for it doesn't mean they can't do it. You see, it's a person's individual choice whether to use birth control methods or not. If they use them, great. Nobody's against that. But why do you want your next door neighbor paying for it? You know, that's just the simple economics of it.
Yeah, birth control is one thing, but what really gets me rolled up is abortion and the company using parts of the baby to make product.
Yeah, well, we don't. That's too big. Scotty, I'll get to you in 1 second. That's a big topic, abortion. I'm not sure that maybe I don't know. Maybe health policies cover it today. I don't know, but I saw a lady say something about it's free choice, and I've had 23 of them, and I'll have more. Well, to me, it's murder. To God, it's murder. Birth control, Jews are not allowed to practice birth control. And we're not allowed to waste seed, is very simply the way it's put. But there's no such restriction on anybody else that I know. I know that my wife and I, when I was first married, decided we only wanted 2 kids, so we just took the steps we had to only have 2 kids. But if I had to do it again, I'd probably not do it that way. When Shira got married the first time, she just wanted kids and kids and kids. So she had 6 kids and 14 grandchildren and loving every minute of it. And I think that, everybody should be that way. Sometimes I think about why I didn't have more than 2. But everybody's their choice. They can do it or not do it. They don't have to get anybody else involved in their decision. It's a personal thing. And if you decide you want to do it, okay, go ahead and do it. But I don't have to participate in paying for it for you because you made the decision. And I don't know how expensive birth control pills are, so whatever the method is used today, I have no idea. But there should be no expectation that someone else has to help pay you. You pay for it. I mean, that's just my whole take on the whole thing. Scotty, go ahead.
Can I pull us back to Tzedakah?
Please.
I was going to ask this question earlier, but we kind of got off, and that's okay. That's okay. When Dan asked his question, I actually heard 2 layers of that question. And some of you may go back and listen to the recording again. But Dan was talking about, giving and giving and giving. And then you got these people that know you're a giver and they begin to overrun you. So I'm going to ask you, Rabbi Pesach, if you could elaborate on one thing, and I'm going to see if I can present it correctly. And okay. I'm going to start off with maybe 1 out of 25. Well, let's not do one. Let's do 1 out of 50. No, let's do 1 out of 100. Let's say you're giving tzedakah to 100 people, and 99 of them are ripping you off. But what about that one that you're really helping? Should you forsake the giving to all the 100 for the one that you're really helping?
That's a really good question. Should you stop helping everybody because you feel like most of them are ripping you off and you can't tell the difference between those who are and those who aren't? Excellent question. This is something we each as an individual have to help out and do things. Now look, I'm going to give you 2 real quick examples. When I first came to Sfat, I met an elderly guy, and he was always talking about having to buy medicine every month and all that. And medicine isn't free here, but it's next to free. If you belong to an HMO, they give you a prescription, and you have a certain minimum you have to pay for each different medicine you get depending on the medicine. And he never had money to get his prescriptions filled. So I would take him to the pharmacy and fill the prescription for him. And it came to maybe $20-$30 a month, sometimes 40. And then one month he says, well, I want to buy some extra, and I'm pretty sure the pharmacist will let me get more of this particular medicine because I need it. We went in, and okay, that month it was $60. The next month it was $80. The next month I said to him, I think we're done. I said, what you're doing here is, what are you doing with them? You just selling them or something? Or are you getting them for somebody else? And he just kind of looked at me sheepishly. And I said, look, I'm willing to help you, but I'm not willing to be taken advantage of. I mean, I just was very straightforward with him. And I didn't see him again after that. I didn't get mad or anything. I just explained it to him. Then I had a woman that would come up, and our electricity's off. He'd look at my electricity bill. I need to pay the bill. Actually, the first time she hit me was I paid the whole bill, 250 shekels, about, I don't know, $60. She came and gave me the same story the next month. I said, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? If it wasn't electricity, it was something else. If it wasn't that, it was something else. And I learned she'd go around and tell everybody the same story. And Shira was working, helping an elderly lady in her home, and this lady would come by and knock on the door and ask for money. And if she wasn't given enough, she said, wait a minute, I need more money than this. Finally, I got to the point with the lady, and the lady used to annoy Shira all the time, come up to her on the street, and she gets in your face looking for money. And I said to her, don't ever come to Shira again, and don't come to me again. Done deal. Sometimes you have to put your foot down. But we have to use a little bit of thinking about who we're helping. And some people you have to turn down. And if you don't automatically turn them down, but if you feel for some reason something's going wrong here, you turn them down. They're taking advantage. Did you want to say something, Dan?
Yeah, sure, Pashek. I think what this brings to mind is the Noahide code, the Sheva Mitzvot. We have the prohibition against theft. And if people truly understood what it is about, they wouldn't function in such a way. And from what I understand is that during the days of Noah, leading up to the flood, it says that the earth was filled with violence. But from what I've learned from the rabbis is that was pecuniary in nature. It was theft related in nature. There was a lot of violence that had to do with theft. And we see a lot of that in this day and age where everybody's always trying to stretch the envelope for profit's sake. and objectivity is all thrown out the window, and things are only worth what you can get somebody to pay for it. But if it's only worth so much, and you're getting substandard goods, I mean, let's face it, Pashek, you remember the day when people bought cast iron frying pans because it would last you a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
It was a useful frying pan, even though they got better no-stick Teflon, but they don't last as long. And I spent a lot of years in the auto industry, and all I could say is that if you think about this for a second, the development of the specialty tool, the specialty tool that you can no longer fix your car without this specialty tool, forces you to go back to the dealership, and they alone have that specialty tool, so they alone can fix it. It makes you dependent, and people have worked this degree of dependence into a lot of angles of society, all for pecuniary gain, all for financial gain. And I just know, as a B'nai Noach, I so see the depth in each and every one of the Sheva Mitzvot, that the prohibition of theft. I mean, I've had one rabbi say, look, you just don't even test that grape out at a grocery store. That's stealing.
Correct.
Right? You've literally crossed the line. And I think that a lot of people that take advantage of social systems, take advantage of kindness of people out there, they undermine those whom kindness should really be pointed towards. And the reality is that you have a clouded, tainted, jaded, in some respects, people get about giving, and then those that are truly in need go without because of those that steal or take advantage of situations unjustly. And I just know that the Sheva Mitzvot, the prohibition against theft, plays such a profound role. I even had a chat once with Veronica. We did a broadcast together, her and I, once, and she went on about the prohibition of theft in a profound manner. So it permeates so many different ways, and it can stifle giving. And I think you're right. We've got to stay sharp. But I just wanted to add that.
No, you're exactly right, and that's very good. Terry, you have a comment?
Yeah, Dan, you brought up something I really hadn't, or I guess I probably thought about, but hadn't thought about. You know what I'm talking about. Let's say you've got someone taking advantage of you. They're stealing twice. They're taking from you, and they're taking from the person that needs you. So it's stealing twice.
Terry, I've had the rabbis explain, and forgive me because I'm not as prolific in Hebrew as you are, but they have a phrase for stealing one's thoughts. There's actually a prohibition against stealing one thought. And when you're technically lying, if you're doing it to connive, deceive, lead somebody down a path deliberately that's advantageous in your favor, in a poor business sense, right? Where there's guile, legitimate guile, not a favorable negotiation on your house, or you're selling a piece of property or something, and you're trying to negotiate your top open dollar in the market, and get the ceiling value of something, but when you're price gouging, these are things that fall under clearly under theft. But I think you touched on it earlier about money. People, we don't want to say the money's not the root of all evil. I think Solomon has that clear under wraps, but the love of money, when it becomes a god to people, it makes problems galore and provokes a lot of things that I know that the Sheva Mitzvot are actual cure for.
Good question. Good statement there, Dan. It's absolutely true. The do not steal. People do not think in depth about what it really means. It has to do with weights and measures. It has to do with a lot of things. And it does have to do with negotiating and selling your house, too. because a lot of people paint over problems in the house, and we're supposed to have inspectors that come inspect and all that kind of stuff. And it costs us a fortune in services when we go to buy a house to make sure that you're not lying to me about what's going on in this house.
Well, even appraising.
That is a
appraisers
course.
put their neck in a noose. They get paid, you know, a couple $1,000s to do this detailed value appraisal, and it's intended for certain eyes only, and somebody else sees it and jumps on it thinking it intended this, and then they're suing the appraiser for misleading them, and you know, there's no end to the wickedness of the human mind when it's got, you know, in gain we trust. And it's all about gain and more and what's in it for them. And it doesn't realize that there's an honest integrity to beating your swords into plowshares, spears into pruning hooks, learning more, no more, but working the land and reaping a harvest and giving thanks for that.
Well, you're right. And there's some things that come under two headings: not stealing and don't murder. Stealing can be something as simple as saying something bad about somebody so that their reputation drops in the eyes of the other person. You're stealing that person's reputation, but you're also killing that person's reputation. So it comes under two different categories. Even if you're telling the truth about somebody and you're doing it in such a way that it makes you look better, or you really want to get this person put down, stealing and murder, it's a double event here that you're participating in. And when this happens, I don't know if you listened to Shira's last teaching. It was called Triple Murder. When you get involved in something like that,
Title.
3 people are actually murdered, according to the Jewish thought. The person that's bringing the information, the person listening to the information, and the person that's being talked about. There's a death to each one of them. One guess at who's the most responsible person in this, who's the one that would be in your court, who caused the death. What would you take a guess at?
Myself, I'd say the one that started the talking.
Yeah, well, guess what? The person who listens is the one that is the problem. Because the person, it's like you see somebody running after somebody with a knife and you know they're going to kill the other guy, so you tackle them and stop them. You've avoided all 3 having a problem. The person listening is allowing the other person to stab the other person. They actually know that there's something wrong going on and they should stop it. So that's the person that has, when we listen to something somebody else is saying, we're the liable party.
Wow.
We can say to the other person, enough, don't want to hear it. Let's talk about something else. And it stops right there. So, and this is also, it gets into stealing also. Something was stolen from each person. So there's a whole lot of things that has to do with it. It comes under. This is why I gave the exercise to this couple to take the 613 and put the 7 over here and tell me what you think each one belongs to of the 613. And it's surprising because the 7 mitzvot, the 7 universal laws for all mankind, give every single human being the exact number of responsibilities out of the 613. There's no difference. When someone says, I want to convert, what they're saying is, okay, let me go under all the minutia rules that God gave to the Jews on how to eat and when you got to pray, when you get up in the morning, when you take a bath, when you do this, when you do that. Okay, you want to do it, fine, but why? To be a complete human being, all we have to do is fear God, according to Solomon, and do the things that he tells us to do, the commandments. So every human being has the same exact responsibility to God, to be a human being. Now, if you're going to be righteous in the nations, you're going to be Jewish. God borns, is that a word? Borns you into being Jewish. Okay, that's what he wanted from me. Someone that was born not to be Jewish, this is what God wants from you. He wants you to do the same exact things the Jewish guy is doing in fulfilling what it is to be a human being. Because he put some more stuff on the Jews, that's his business. It doesn't make anybody else any more or any less. What makes a person less is when they don't do what God requires of every basic human being, no matter who you are. That's what makes somebody worth less. They do it themselves. God doesn't do it to them. So these people that take advantage, yes, they're stealing. And if you let them take over advantage, you're responsible for that. You can stop them, just like the person that comes to give you information out of your mouth. You can stop the person. But just because you have a bad experience with somebody one time, you don't cut off everybody. You don't say, well, I got ripped off, so I'm not going to help anybody anymore. I'm going to say something. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm going to say it. People that are coming from other religions feel that they've been ripped off for so many years, they're going to keep that money in their pocket now. I don't have to do this anymore. Well, it's not true. You have more of a responsibility now. Just because you feel that you were ripped off for so many years by the religion you used to go to for building funds and tithing and this and that and the other thing, you had a choice in that. It took you the years to come out of it. That's fine. But you don't cut off what you were doing because you got ripped off by one. God wants you to do that. And there's truth in the fact that you were told, even when you're other religions, that God wanted you to do that. But the reason that they wanted you to do that was for their own gain. It never ceased to amaze me about these people that would amass this money and build these $1 million homes and drive in Lamborghinis and, and well, God gave me this because I'm such a good this, and God gave me that because I'm such a good that. That's lies. They're lying to themselves, they're lying to their people. So because you've come out of another religion that maybe you feel you got ripped off for years, you can't say, well, I don't have to do it anymore, because that's not really the case. But nobody's looking at you and nobody's saying, okay, where's my 10% this month or anything else? That's for you. That's between you and God, what you do with it. Martha, I saw what you read here, what you sent me, and I just want to say that I'm going to get into that topic in just a second because I think it's important. About Manus Freeman the other day. I'm just take quick. Okay, Richard. Oh, you were saying that to somebody else. Okay. Oh, my screen's going nutty. Manus Freeman, that he always says that no matter how a person is, they can get better. And he talked about not only physically, but, people that are challenged in some other way. Well, you know what? They do get better, but maybe not in this lifetime. One of the things that I've learned in all my readings and all the teachings is when God has somebody born in a particular way in this lifetime, it's because he wanted them that way, because they have something that they're either going to learn or be taught or teach to other people, to their example. And I think I talked a couple of weeks ago, people with Down syndrome. Here in Sfat, we have quite a few number of people with Down syndrome, but not because they were born into the families that way, because the people adopted them. And there's one family with 3, another one with 2, a couple of them with 2, because these people, and people call them mentally challenged or whatever they want to call them, it doesn't make any difference. They really aren't. I mean, we might look at them in that way, but they have a spiritual connection, I've found, with God that I can't get to. There's something there. So are they going to be cured? Of course they're going to be cured. Are they going to be cured in this lifetime? Maybe not. Is it sometimes that they get to the point where we can't take care of them in home? One family that's been adopted 2 young ladies, I guess they're up to the age of 35 now. One's 35, one's 30. And so they had to let them go out because they couldn't take care of them anymore. And they actually have places here in Israel where even villages or towns where they can kind of live together with the same kind of people and interact and even have relationships to get married and things, which is pretty cool, actually, I think. But sometimes you don't have to feel guilty if you can't say control or interact with that person anymore. Sometimes the person needs somebody else at that point, and you have to do something about it. I don't believe that, I believe everybody's cured, but maybe not in this body. Some people get cured. Some people are in wheelchairs, some people are this, some people are that. Maybe it doesn't happen in this lifetime. But when we all move up the next level of life, everybody's cured of everything. When the Messiah comes, we are promised no more darkness. Darkness means no more illnesses, no more evil, no more of that which produces darkness in our minds. So we're all working for that thing. And the more we can get people to think in that manner by affecting their lives, whether we react with them, the quicker this whole thing will come. The quicker it'll happen. And most of the Jewish sages and the smart Jewish people that are, do all the thinking, much smarter than I am, they believe it's very soon now because the timeline, which we can get into at another time. Anyway, I just want to finish off this thing about closing everybody off. Don't do it. You're hurting yourself. You're putting a hardness in yourself that you don't need. When you lump people into a category and judge them all the same way, that's a little hard spot in you. If you take individuals and say everybody's got good in them and everybody has good, I want to see the good in this person, and you look for it, but if you realize you shouldn't be associating with the person or they're really taking advantage, you just have to push them away a little bit or a lot, depending on what it takes. And don't feel guilty about it. It's okay to do that. God says it's okay to do it. Okay, we kind of wandered all over the place. Go ahead, Scotty.
In the future, Rabbi Pesach, if you could cover, I know we don't have time tonight because it's going to be a pretty good subject. In the giving of tzedakah or charity, from your heart, what does that accomplish for your soul and for your, and I say redemption properties? What does that accomplish?
Oh, that's a big question. That's a good question. And yeah, we have to, I'm going to give you one sentence right now. It may be, God doesn't preordain anything on anybody. But it may be that God knows that this year or next week or 2 years from now, something's going to happen in your life that's going to have a major effect on you in a negative way. And because you do an act like this of kindness, he can change it. He can take away whatever, we call it a judgment, but it's not really a judgment. But we call it that. We don't know what else to call it. But you can change what's going to happen. You know, in Rosh Hashanah, we pray, God already, in Yom Kippur, God already knows who's going to die and how they're going to die and how much money they're going to make and all that kind of stuff. And he knows it, but we call them judgments. It's already been judged what's going to happen to us the next year, but God just knows because he knows. I don't know any other way to explain it. But you can change these things. Absolutely change them. Some of them you can change on a daily basis, but we'll get into that whole discussion. That's a good discussion to have. But we're not helpless. And what you just mentioned about the giving and the tzedakah goes a long way in helping with that. And we'll get into the whole thing, but I think that's a good topic for the next meeting, actually. So I hope that everybody will come around and see us next week. And I saw we had some less people here this week. And I think it's because we got kind of mixed up on schedule because I was doing 3 days a week and I realized I thought everybody's going to be at home and everybody's going to need, some people are going to be bouncing off the walls and everybody's going to need help. So I decided I was going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning 3 nights a week. Well, I've cut it down to just Monday nights now. And that's at 10 o'clock East Coast time. This is 8 o'clock East Coast time. So I think there might have been some confusion with that because I know we're missing some regulars that maybe got confused in it. And we're also using 2 different rooms, which also may add to confusion, but we'll work that out. We'll go ahead, Scotty.
You mean, Rabbi Pesach, you mean Sunday night for us on the Eastern Coast, Monday morning for you, correct?
Oh, right. Sorry about that. Sunday night at 10 o'clock. That gives me a couple extra hours sleep. I don't have to get up at 2. I can get up at 4. Like this meeting, I get up at 2 o'clock for. And I hope that we had watchers out there on Facebook and YouTube, and I hope that next week we'll have some more people come by and have more questions and maybe some interaction. I want to thank everybody for being here, and I really appreciate it. And Veronica, I'd like to talk to you more sometime. Anytime you want to do it, just let me know.
Oh, Veronica's a sharp cookie.
And Martha, yeah, the next time you're with Shira, maybe I can get the conversation. I know you spent some time with her now. Terry, Tony, Scotty, Martha, Veronica, and Chrissy, and all the people that were in the room, and Dan, we really appreciate the time that you put in.
Long days. I got to finish this course I'm working on. I've got a couple more weeks, and then I'll have another exam in June. I'm going to have to write a full exam with the real estate board here. But, you know, you just do what Hashem leads. And for me, it's a joy to even be a part of a group or sit in on a group or see the lessons shared. But, you know, my emphasis is to share the beauty of Torah out of Israel, the land of Israel. And I know that people here in the West really need to tune in and hear it. And your group is tight, you know, they seem to care for one another, and it's good to see it growing. But there's so many, because of the lockdown, Pashek, there is so many broadcasts. I mean, you've got rabbis that can't hold their regular synagogue meetings, so they're doing, you know, online. You've got everything going online. You've got numerous extra groups, and a lot of people get worn down with the number that they attend per week. I mean, I'm doing, you know, 5, 6 or so a week, and just to set up sometimes is a half hour and beforehand. But all I can say is that if I'm doing these 6, I'm missing a few of the classes I normally would because I'm working and doing some studying. And I know that as much as we'd like to attend each and every one,
Yeah.
you know, we need to stick with one teacher that's working for you, that's actually bringing you along in the learning curve, especially along the lines of the Sheva Mitzvot. And, you know, I know last week you guys touched on briefly some of the Brit Shalom book from Rabbi Sherbow, and that's coming. And I know that Rabbi Goldberg posted that link on Sunday that a lot of people have had access to see and read. You know, I'm really hoping that all that you do, all that everybody else is doing, especially around the Noahide World Center, our numbers are up. And it's a joy to just be a part of a bigger community that's not just one, it's not just here, it's not just there, it's everybody coming together. And I really appreciate you doing what you do. So
thank you. You know, I was in a Hebrew lesson with Rabbi Sherbow this past week, just a few days ago, and there were like 80 or 90 people from around the world there.
Wow.
And he's also giving courses here in Israel.
Interpreters there?
No. This is a Hebrew thing.
All Hebrew?
Yeah, he's also doing something for the people here in Israel to get them involved called Noah's Ark. And they actually pay for the course. And it was pretty cool to see about 60 people in that course. It's like a 3-hour course once a week. And he brings guest speakers and so forth. And I actually have a spot to teach on there. So I got excited about that. So anyway, it's all in Hebrew, though. I wish it had translation. I wish it had subtitles, because it's a really good teaching he's giving. So anyway, thank you again.
We're nearing the 2-minute mark. Are we
go
going to
ahead.
put down any final words? Are you good till next Wednesday? Still same old bat channel?
Same thing, yeah. And if anybody wants to drop by and see me on Sunday night, 10 o'clock, click on the Zoom room link on the other Zoom room link, which is a permanent link, by the way. You can bookmark it in the end. This one's permanent. The other one's permanent. Depends on what time of day we're doing it.
Well, after this class, I've been removing this link to try to help relieve the confusion.
Yeah, I've been trying
and posting it again on Tuesday night or Wednesday mornings. So it's not buttoned up against what you're doing as well.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, actually. I try to remember to take all the links down so that when I put the announcement up on that link, people go to it. Tony, Scotty, Dan, Veronica, Martha, Terry,